Hello, Moti Sherwood.
Hi, Nethanel.
The publishing journey is taking us on this episode towards one of your first books.
Exactly. We're going back in time, and I'm saying it on purpose because you'll understand it when we talk about it.
It is kind of a spoiler towards this episode.
It is. And but I think that people will be thrilled enough to listen to it.
So the book deals with two different stories.
Yes, it's two novellas, what we call, and it's about very, very unusual animals.
The first?
The first is the chimpanzee, and I want a word before that. You know, my regular genre is thrillers. Thrillers from the medical field.
Exactly.
Like Robin Cook, like Michael Palmer, Tess Gerritsen. All their books, by the way, became very successful movies. But until, like if you start writing, and I encourage everybody that likes writing to do that, it's very enjoyable, even though if you take it seriously, it can be very demanding. So this book, עינו החדשה של ריולן, Riolan's New Eye, and I'll explain the title in a second, belongs to the time that I was searching my genre. I wasn't sure what I want to write about. Short stories, non-fiction, fiction, until I got to the place where I felt very comfortable, which is the medical thrillers. I tested myself with two fantasy stories. And they are not children's stories. It's not Grimm Brothers or Snow White. It's something, but it's written in a way of fantasy. Again, trying my style, trying to polish my words and my stories. So I've chosen the two animals here. We'll start with the first one, which is, as I say, the blind chimpanzee. This blind chimpanzee arrives from San Diego Bilbao Zoo. He's a son, the first son of a chimpanzee from Tanganyika, from the lake, that suffers from a very, very rare blindness because of retinal disease, a known retinal disease. And it gets to Tel Aviv because there is a very famous professor who is doing tests with implantations of retinas or a full eye, all eye, not available yet, by the way, don't call your eye doctor yet. And the story goes as follows. There was a criminal, a robber, he robbed the jewels of Lady Rothschild that lives outside Tel Aviv. And the loot was never discovered. Many years of searching. Actually, there was Gustav, the old policeman, is now retired. The story of his life is trying to find this loot, and he never did. And this robber, this criminal, Spinoza is his name, by the way, because it's very authentic, has a girlfriend named Yolanda. And she's, let's call her a call girl, a prostitute. Why shouldn't we call her a prostitute? That's what she is. And she's blind.
Wow.
Also by this disease. And, you know, when you write stories about, they say the motivations for things are usually three or four. One of them is money, and one of them is jealousy, another one is hate, and the last one is love. And this is a story out of love. Wow. Sort of a love of a criminal to his girl, not officially his girl, they never got married or anything, but he asked as his last will that he will donate his eyes, his healthy eyes, that he was very proud of, to her. And without spoilers, the criminal is gone in an accident, and his eyes are tested for suitability for Yolanda, but unfortunately, because of a little sort of stain in the cornea, it cannot be transplanted into a human being, and there is Riolan waiting in his cage.
Wow.
And he's lucky. Riolan, by the way, is a name of a physiologist in the 17th century who was very, very unique person, hard person, and egocentric, maniac, and everything, that he named this little muscle that flutters, that sort of tremors very delicately when we are very, very mad and stressed, and we reach for our coffee, or we want a cigarette, or our neck bumps out. So this is the muscle of Riolan. And I had a monkey in America who was named like that. And by the way, I named my biotech startup Riolan Ophthalmics. And so this is Riolan. Yes. And my fantasy was always that he will receive an eye. I must admit that this is not the eye is an original idea, but there is one guy that I don't want to be in high places to compare to him, who is Bulgakov, and the people from Russia that listen to me will know the heart of a dog. There, somebody, a very egocentric scientist, looking for a dog to put in him a heart, to do a futuristic, like AI sort of a science, in the time of the first 1917 of the revolution, and sure enough, the dog becomes exactly what his donor was. Wow. Here, Riolan, the story starts from the end actually. Riolan wakes up in 5:25 exactly. We know, tearing away his bandage.
Amazing.
And start waking up and walking out. And Zinger, the professor, and Gustav, who is coming back from his retirement, and the two guys, Marco, that used to feed him, and with the worms and everything, the things that chimpanzees love, starting walking, and imagine a whole trail of people, like 4 or 5, 6 people walking towards where? The loot. Towards the necklaces and towards everything else. And I don't want to spoil it any further. You will recognize many, many, many rooms in the building of the medical tower in Tel Aviv University, where I studied.
And this book is also in the process.
It's in the process of being translated into English.
From Hebrew to English.
Hebrew to English. The second one is about even a more unusual creature, animal, a chinchilla.
A chinchilla.
A blue fur chinchilla. There is a blue fur chinchilla. And I'm writing now a dedication that says to the guy that fixed my watch, everything is fine. Because this chinchilla has a very weird ability. There is a story here, a murder story, about somebody named Bauman, who comes to the Inspector Koch during his very last night shift, admitting that he killed Koch's wife, or actually ex-wife.
Wow.
Koch says, fine, you killed the bitch. Marvelous. I wanted to do it myself. Thank you.
Wow.
And this Bauman, at 2 o'clock in the morning, talks him into making it a full confession, meaning getting back to the site of the crime, to the place of the crime, getting all the evidence, the torn window pane, everything, and putting him in jail. But this Bauman is known to be a dreamy sort of a Joseph. So Koch first refuses, and then he says, why? I want to capitalize on this occasion to see the dead body of my hated wife, ex-wife, or whatever. And she used to have a chinchilla in a cage. And the story goes straightforward until the chinchilla appears. Every place in the story that the chinchilla appears, the story goes backward.
The timeline of the story.
The timeline goes backwards. It's like you did a rewind on your tape recorder. And people is supposed to be dead are not dead. And who is dead, who is not dead. And the time frame ends in the very, very last chapter with who else? Who knows what time it is? And it's a Kafkaesque sort of trial of mine to put some imagination, dreams, maybe drugs into the story. Because it's not, I think it's not accidental that the word drug means good and bad and the opposite.
Yes.
And you know, when I did pharmacology, I remember and I wrote the textbook of ocular pharmacology. One of the nicest saying was, how do you know, make an experiment? You inject something into a rat and you get a scientific paper in return. So these are my two experiences. And I want to say about drugs some other stuffs here that are connected, because there is some psychiatry involved in this book. That says that Wendell Holmes, he was a doctor, by the way, and a Supreme Court judge in America. He says if you take all the pharmacopoeia, all the drug armamentarium, all the closet with all your drugs in the pharmacy, and you throw it to the ocean, so better for mankind and so bad, worse for the fishes.
Moti Sharir with the book that is...
This is in Hebrew,
yes.
But as we said, it's in the process of being translated and will be released in a publishing house in English too.
That's great. Moti Sharir, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Nethanel.